Back in 2019, I had a root canal done. It was about, I think, September, November of 2019. I was in a severe amount of pain with this one tooth that I had. A filling fell out. What I noticed immediately is I had to get this thing pulled. Pulled or a root canal done. I was in the most pain probably I've ever felt. I used to tell my girlfriend, who now is my fiance, I would rather be shot than have this type of pain. It was just, oh my God, it was really bad pain. So what I did is I looked for a dentist as fast as I can. And the only one that was able to take me was a dentist in Harlem. And it was in the middle of the ghetto, the hood. And I went in and I told him, I don't care what you do, just get rid of this pain. And he said, well, I can try to do a quick root canal. And I said, sir, I need something as soon as possible. I'm in a lot of pain. I got the root canal done. And I was happy because I was no longer in pain. But things got really weird for me. And I was turning a blind eye to it. And at the end of that year, COVID then came to hit us all in 2020. And when I got my root canal done, I was probably 9 or 10% body fat. I've always been known to have a great amount of energy. I've always, loved to work out. I was a Division I athlete. And what I came to find out when I went to LA is I went to go weigh myself and I was 203 pounds. Now, I was hovering around 190 for a little bit, and I just went up to 203. And I'm like, okay, that's nothing. That can't be nothing. And then I started to notice digestive issues. And I think this is one of the reasons why I started to really, really study the microbiome and really, really try to master digestion, because I was just having a whole bunch of digestive issues. The digestive issues I was having, just to be honest with you, is loose stool that was fatty, smelly, and I had to go a lot of times during the day. So I'm like, oh man, do I have Crohn's? Did I develop, irritable bowel syndrome, or whatever the case may be? Within 1 month of being in LA, on top of the digestive issues, I started to notice that I wanted to take naps during the day. And I would literally just wake up in the morning, work with the clients on Zoom, and then immediately just want to take a nap. I then noticed that anytime I went to go work out, I didn't have as much energy as I usually have when I work out. And I just kind of thought that, maybe I'm just depressed. I just lost my gym. And I'm pretty sure that played a role in it, right? I'm not only saying it was one thing, but this is the sequence that I went through. And I was like, oh man, I don't feel like working out, or I'll work out and I just can't do, my body felt weak. Like I would do pull-ups. Usually I could do like 20, 25 pull-ups. I was only able to do like 7 to 9 pull-ups. And I noticed that I weighed myself one morning and I was 213. And then I went on Instagram and I told everybody on Instagram, hey, I went up to 213 in about 6-7 weeks. I gained almost 20 pounds. I'm going to lose this weight and I'm going to show you how to lose the weight. So I do what I always do. I put myself on, my lifestyle plan, and it always works. And then I went up to 223. And then I started to be really, really confused. And then at the same time of me gaining the weight, my energy was really low. And every day I moved. I moved to Los Angeles during COVID. It was beautiful outside. We were allowed to still go outside. We had workout parks that you could do pull-ups, dips. So I would walk 10,000 steps, work out really hard, come back to the house. I'll fast all day. And then I started to notice, even, with that, I was still gaining weight. So I'm like, okay, let me go to the doctor. So I actually documented this and I said, look, guys, on Instagram, I said, I'm gaining all this weight. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm going to go to the doctor and get my A1C checked and my blood sugar checked, because I'm pretty confused on what's going on. And as I went to the doctor, I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome. And then I was also, I had an A1C. So an A1C is an average of your last 3 months of glucose. And my A1C was 5.6. And my fasting glucose was like 102. So I'm stepping into the stage of prediabetes now. And I'm like, yo, what is going on? I'm so active. I'm dieting. I'm spending was probably spending, I'm not gonna lie, $500 a week on food. They had this one supermarket in Los Angeles called Irwan's, and it's like Whole Foods on steroids, right? So everything is super organic, everything's super healthy, and it's super expensive at the same time. But what I would do is I was eating healthier than I've ever ate in my life, to the point where I actually got the membership at Equinox. It was like $200 a year, and you get 10% back on your food. I mean, whatever you spend in the store. So I was really confused. I'm like, yo, something is really going on. At the same time, there was days where I would wake up, and I always had kind of like days like this as a kid and even growing up, that I would wake up and it was hard for me to be focused and it was hard for me to be motivated. But it hit me really hard when I was during 2020, 2021, and 2022. It got worse, but my motivation to want to do something was so just low. I had great opportunities in front of me, which I took advantage of, but I could have done more, where I just didn't have the capacity, the cognition to be able to pull myself together to do certain things. It was really challenging. So I continued to push myself, and I opened up my gym in Los Angeles, and it was awesome. I started working with a lot of celebrity clients. It was awesome. But I became a little insecure because I took my weight and I was 230. And I now started gaining weight around the chest and belly. I'm used to having my abs and my pecs. Now, I always grew up with weight issues as a kid, but as soon as I started to learn about nutrition, physical therapy, strength and conditioning, holistic lifestyle coaching, I immediately changed my life in 2017. So from 2017 to 2020, I had no issues when it came down to losing the weight and keeping it off. I kept the weight off for 3 years, had no problem. And I still was able to enjoy myself here and there, right? Like once a week, I'll have a cheat day. I'll have like pizza or like cookies, something I craved for the week. So I had no issues. I was able to keep 10% body fat. But I did work out, right? I worked out and I ate well. And the same thing applied even when I was in LA. But I was a lot more active when I was in LA because I didn't want to be in the house all day during COVID. So I was outside all day. And then in 2021, when I opened up my gym, I was in the gym all day long. I was doing hikes every day. I was training. So I became a little insecure because I'm like, yo, I'm gaining this weight. So this is a time where I was making a lot more TikTok videos, and I kind of grew on TikTok, and I didn't really want to tell you the truth. I didn't want to make videos because I'm like, yo, I'm teaching about health and I got fat. Like this is very crazy to me. So I say in 2021, I had to go finish my holistic lifestyle license level 3. So I went to San Diego. And when we were there, something came up and kind of struck some interest. Now, we learned the importance of dental health when it comes down to overall health in the mind, body, and emotions. And one thing that I've learned is that if a client has like heavy metals in their mouth, like aluminum fillings, um, it can cause mercury problems or heavy metals in the body, which then can cause the body to have a lot of problems with the thyroid, which can cause weight gain, skin issues, digestion issues. So, I always look at my mouth. I'm like, I don't really have anything that is a metal, any aluminum fillings, any mercury fillings. So, but then we learned about root canals. And one thing that we've learned about root canals is the awareness of root canals, on how root canals is known to be when you take the roots or the nerves out of a tooth, blood supply can't get to that tooth, meaning that your immune system can't get there to kill off any bad bacteria or any toxins that the bacteria releases. So we were aware of that, and we were given references to study. And one of the references was Dr. Weston A. Price, who is a dentist, who has a book called, and I have it right here next to me, it's called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. It's a very, very good book. And Dr. Weston A. Price wanted to know why people were having dental issues. He started to see his second generational clients come in with a lot of dental issues in the early 1900s, where his first generational clients didn't have as much. So what he did is he dedicated his time to travel around the world to study people who weren't touched by man-made food, right? So he calls it the four white devils: pasteurized milk, table salt, table salt, like white processed table salt, white sugar, and white flour. And what he shows in the book is that anytime he went to these villages that weren't touched by processed food, they have perfect teeth. They have symmetric faces. Their jaws are strong. And they had no need to pull out wisdom teeth. They had no cavities. And he was saying the reason why is because when we eat a diet that's deficient, like we do in America, and with these processed foods, they're going to cause a lot of issues with your teeth. And that's usually the first sign of disease. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And as we did more research, the thing with the root canal thing, I want to know why. My biggest thing is like, why? If somebody tells me something, I just don't believe anything. Especially, I'm very skeptical. I'm very accepting. I'm very open to spirituality. I'm very open to Eastern medicine and holistic lifestyle coaching and holistic health in general. I got a lot of the Western medicine teachings for 4.5 years at a university where I studied with a great amount of respected professors. So when I got into this Eastern medicine stuff, it made a lot of sense to me because I did it as a kid. I just didn't know what I was doing. A lot of it I was just intuitively doing. But when I really started to look into this tooth thing, I'm like, why would dentists perform a root canal if it can bring any harm? So I was kind of like, I'll look into that stuff, but I don't think it's that. I think it's maybe, I'm a pre-diabetic, so I'm going to go keto, or I'm going to go really low carb, which helped me with my energy a little bit, to be quite honest with you. But I started to notice I was very intolerant to a lot of things. So I invested thousands of dollars in supplements like hydrochloric acid, the best digestive enzymes in the world, over the last couple of years trying to fix the situation. So I say in 2022, so a year goes by, and now I'm 245. And I'm like, wow, something is really out of balance. So I would tell my fiance, like, yo, something is wrong with me. Like, and she's like, yo, babe, I think it's that tooth. And I'm like, nah, it's not the tooth. It can't be the tooth. It got to be something else. And then one day, what I wanted to do is I was talking to a client one day. I'm just going to be 100% honest with you. And I'm very big on like hygiene, like super big on hygiene. And one day I'm talking to a client, and I noticed that I had a funny smell coming from my mouth. And it was like my breath. And I was like, whoa, you never talk to somebody with bad breath. And I'm like, yo, I brush my teeth, I floss. I'm like, what is going on? So I take my finger and I stick it back and I press down on the tooth that got a root canal, and I smelled my finger and I knew something was wrong. I'm like, yo, this is not right. So since it's in the back, my root canal's in the back, what I did is I pulled back my lip and I looked in the back, and I see that the root canal tooth that I got done is turning black. So I said, oh my God, this is not good. So I'm like, I have to look into this. So I started doing more research, and then what I've learned is going to blow your mind away. And like I said, please do your research on this stuff. I'm not coming on this podcast to scare you. I'm not coming on this podcast to act like a doctor. I'm not coming on this podcast to diagnose you. I'm not coming on this podcast to discredit dentists at all. I came across Dr. Weston A. Price's work where he had a client. He started to perform root canals. And one of the clients, he started to see clients come in with disabilities and health issues. And he wanted to know what was going on. So what he did was he had this one client come in that had arthritis so bad that she was in a wheelchair. So he kind of assumed that she was like in a car accident or something. And then he asked her, like, what happened? And she's like, no, I just have really bad arthritis. I can't really walk. So what Dr. Weston A. Price did is he started to perform a study and research. And you can find more information about this from the book, The Root Canal Cover-Up. And I'm going to have that in the description, which was made by another doctor who performed root canals and was a very respected doctor that has certain institutes named after him. And his father was one of the most respected dentists in the world as well. And he was as well. The author was. And he starts his book off saying that this is going to be something that's going to upset a lot of people in the dentist industry, because I'm going to share information that nobody really wants to hear and a lot of people want to overlook. In the book, he showed that Dr. Weston A. Price started to pull the root canal out of his clients and decided to take rabbits and stitch that tooth to a rabbit. What he found was that anytime he took a tooth out, if a client struggled with arthritis and if he pulled that root canal out and he attached that tooth to a rabbit, the rabbit developed arthritis. If he had a client with heart disease, he pulled that tooth, He attached the rabbit. He attached it to the rabbit. The rabbit had heart disease and died. I think in the book, I could be wrong, but last time I read the book, it said he performed this about 2,000 times over his career, and it was extremely consistent. At the same time, when he did pull that root canal tooth, the client always got better. The arthritis went away. The heart disease thing went away. So when I read that, I was like, what is going on? So I decided to go on YouTube and just put root canal issues or side effects. And I came across a video called Dangers of a Root Canal. And I will put that in the description down below. It's a holistic dentist that is based out of California who shares that people that already have issues with their immune system can start having a lot of issues when they get a root canal. Now, she does say in the video that people that have a robust immune system may not notice symptoms. But this is why I started the podcast saying, if you're noticing you've been trying everything to fix your health, and if you had a root canal done, go look at these videos, go read these books and these references I'm leaving below. There's also a movie that I'm going to reference as well. So I watched the video and listened to the podcast, and I like to watch my podcasts on YouTube, and I'm watching it and I'm just blown away. If I'm not mistaken, they said that 98% of women that had breast cancer had a root canal done. And they said, this dentist says that usually if the root canal was done on the left side, they develop breast cancer on the left breast. And if it was done on the right side, they developed on the right side. And they also say that root canals are one of the biggest causes of heart disease. Now, I wanted to know why. And what she describes in the video and what Dr. Weston A describes in the video is when a tooth is left in the body, no, we don't leave anything that's dead, a dead organ in the body, because it can be a host for bacteria. These bacteria create toxins and release it in your bloodstream. If you study the teeth, every tooth of yours connects to organs. Remember that, because I'm going to come back and circle to that. You're going to be blown away. So I watched this video, then I go on and I still wanted to do more research. So then I came across the movie called Root Cause. It's a movie that you can find on Tubi, Tubi, and I watched it for free. And in this a documentary that they filmed, it was this man that was struggling with health issues, and he tried everything. He went above and beyond more than me. He went and did, he went around the country looking for doctors and things of that nature. And then he came to find out that it was his root canal. And when he pulled his root canal, everything got better. In that in that documentary, there's a tremendous amount of doctors that are well respected, especially in holistic and integrative medicine, that describe and break down why and how root canals cause issues with your health. And the book, the Root Canal Cover-Up, this doctor shows proof on how root canals not only cause issues with the body as far as organ inflammation and things in that nature, but it also shows the amount of the particular bacteria that starts to overgrow in the body, that starts to create toxins in the body as well. So that book is a good investment. I'm going to leave all this like I said, they don't believe a word I'm saying. Just go do the research and then let yourself feel what you believe or not. I just want to bring you awareness in this podcast. I want to continue to say that. Okay, so I watched the movie and then I'm like, okay, so this is in 2023. There's a part of me that I like to really challenge a belief system. Like, if you didn't notice that already about this story, I'm like, I like to challenge before I make a move and before I talk about it and share it. I like to pull myself through the experience and really see. I don't want to be delusional, right? So I like to, let me try this first. Let me try that first. So what I started to do is one day my brother and I, we were driving around looking for a particular bike, right? Because we want to start doing bike riding. We expressed to each other like, yo, this is crazy. Because I woke up one morning and I was 275. So we're talking about from 195 to 275, 85 pounds I gained in 3 years. And it's affecting me. Outside of the weight, I started to get these weird heart problems, like this pain in my heart. It feels like sharp in my heart. So I went to the doctor, got my heart checked out. Doctor, I passed all my tests. He's like, no, there's nothing really wrong with you. It's stress. And I'm like, yeah, I can definitely see it's stress. I just moved across country. I just did all these interviews. I just did this book deal. There's a lot going on. I'm doing all these workshops around the country. But I'm like, doc, I'm telling you, something's weird. Something's going on. He's like, nah, man, your A1C is still, in a range of almost a pre-diabetic. I'm like, doc, I don't eat any carbs. I work out every day. And so one day, me and my brother was like, I called my brother. I said, yo, his name is Brandon, but I call him B. I said, yo, B, listen, we got to go. I got to start doing extra. Like maybe I have to push myself more. And what I do notice now that when I work out, it's extremely hard. Like I'm a strong guy. I'm 6'3". I was a Division I athlete. I deadlift 400 pounds easily, bench press 300 pounds. Man, if I get in the gym right now, when I work out, I can't do nothing for the rest of the day. And that's what really brought me into adrenal fatigue 2 years ago on studying it more and really because I'm like, I have adrenal fatigue. But I did all the practices. Everything I preach, I do myself. I'm a practitioner. And I can manage it. But as soon as I go do a workout, I'm done. Or as soon as I have too much coffee, I'm done. As soon as I don't get enough sleep, I'm done. So I was telling my brother we was going to get bikes. I said, yo, B, I'm starting to feel this tingle that goes across my back. And it's like, those little pens where you press down, you get electrocuted. I'm like, it's like one of those, someone's pressing one of those pens on my back. It's messing with my nerves. I don't know what it is. And my hands and feet get tingly. And I take vitamin B. I'm not eating sugar. So it's not like damage from diabetes. I'm like, something's wrong. And he said, yo, Nate, you got to get that tooth pulled, man. I had those same symptoms when I had my root canal. In fact, my tooth was getting infected. I had to pull it out and I felt better. So I'm like, yo, I think it's the tooth. So after 3 years of struggling with weight, energy issues, my hands get cold, feet get cold. So, I'm like, thyroid things are going down. I can't eat anything without gaining 5 pounds. I decided to book a holistic dentist here in New Jersey. And I called and I said, listen, I know I'm going to sound crazy, but in the last 3 years, ever since I got this root canal, I started having this weird pain in my heart. My digestion is not consistent. My energy is really low. I play around a lot with depression and anxiety because I have no energy. And like I dance, I don't play. Play is like a slang. I'm always being swung into depression, anxiety. And I said to him, and I gained like almost 80 pounds. And the woman said, oh, that's 100%. We hear that every day. I'm like, for real? A lot of times when you go into the holistic side, you got to really be cautious because you don't want to offend nobody, but you don't want nobody thinking you're crazy. So she goes, yeah, absolutely. We do that every day. She said, why don't you come in? We'll do some test on you and we can see. So I said, oh, fine. So I go in, and as I go in, they do my x-rays and they say, oh, look, your tooth. After a while, the bacteria that found this tooth to be a host, and they explain the whole thing. Everything I've learned in the books, everything I learned in these interviews, they literally sat there and broke everything down again to me. And they said, what happens is, since this tooth doesn't have blood supply, your immune can't get here. This becomes a host for bacteria, and this bacteria starts releasing toxins, and each tooth connects to an organ. She goes, you see this tooth right here, and she pulled it up on the screen. This tooth connects to your thyroid, adrenals, and bladder. She said, so you can definitely have issues with energy, not being able to control stress, and your weight, your metabolism with the thyroid. And I said, that is everything. Now, if that thing came back and said, your left knee, your left toe, your large intestines or something, I'm like, oh, that doesn't, correlate with my problems. But no, that wasn't the case. They told me exactly what I was going through. So then the dentist says, listen, I want to do a 3D x-ray. I want to see if it's if it's this bacteria got up into your sinus. So I'm like, I don't really want to do a 3D x-ray. He goes, look, we have a whole thing that we do for radiation, that we give you supplements and we give you some things to help with the radiation. I was like, okay. So he's like, look, trust me, if there's something there, I know what I need to do on how to clean it out when I do take this tooth out. So I said, okay. So I did the 3D x-ray, and I have a severe, not an acute, I have a chronic, or you can say severe infection in my sinus. And I would never notice that. So if you ever hear me on a podcast and you hear me like a little congested, or you see that I tilt my head one way, remember, every organ or any part of your body connects to a muscle nerve to it. I started to notice that I wasn't really aware because I'm just so, on the go. This last weekend, I was in Martha's Vineyard, and I woke up with this extreme pain in my left jaw, my left eardrum. And I always hear a little in my ears. But I kind of thought, oh, maybe that's like a side effect from playing football. Or honestly, I'm just going to keep it real with you. I just pay no attention to it. It's not that loud. So the doctor showed me the bacteria is penetrating up into your sinus. So we saw the right side of my mouth where there's no root canal, and the left side, and we saw this huge, it looked like a mountain. It was like a white mountain that popped up, and then the other side was nothing. And he goes, you have this bacteria is causing major infection. We got to pull this out as soon as possible. So I said, well, this makes sense. This is probably the reason why I'm going through what I'm going through. And he's like, oh, no doubt about it. So I showed the dentist, a picture of me in 2019. He goes, that's you? And I said, yeah, that's me. Because you don't look the same. He's like, you look like a whole different person. I said, yes. He goes, Nate, I'm going to be honest with you. We hear this all the time. And when the client takes this out, we see huge improvements. So next week, I have an appointment to pull the tooth. Now, here's what they're going to do. And you'll learn about this in the root canal video that I'm going to put in the description, the dangers of a root canal. What they're going to do is they're going to pull blood out of me, and they're going to basically get the strong parts of my immune system. So when they pull the tooth, they replace some blood up in that area to get rid of to put basically the micronutrients and the antioxidants from my own body to be able to get to the place that it wasn't able to get to, for the simple fact that we didn't have any nerves to bring the immune system there to be able to clean out the infection. So I was holding back on making this for probably 2 years because I figured out other ways. I tried to figure out other ways on maybe it's not the tooth. Maybe it is the tooth. And I eliminated every single problem you can ever think about. Another thing that I've learned is that I have a metal in my tooth. So the dentist that did it in Harlem, what he did is, and he kind of did it in a rush. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't blame him. I was not on his schedule. I was not even supposed to be there. I barged into those doors and I said, you need to get me in this chair. I can't take this pain. I cried all night. That's how much the pain was. So I wanted just someone to fix it. Everybody was booked, and it was almost during the holiday season. And he took me in, but he put a metal screw up in the tooth. And that screw is now penetrating through the tooth, and you can kind of see it. And I'm like, is that like a heavy metal? He's like, oh yeah, that's definitely heavy metals going into your bloodstream at the same time. So not only are you dealing with the root canal from the bacteria and the toxins that this root canal is bringing you, but you're also going through the heavy metal. So I had another root canal done in 2021, and I said, can we check on that one? So he did all the exams for that one. He goes, right now, there's no infection in that one. He goes, it looks like whoever did this one did a really good job. I say, right now, you focus on this one, and then If you would like to look into pulling the other root canal, we can get into it. But this one's more important because you had it for 3 years and then infections start to come on and it's not looking good. So I did more research on the exact tooth that I have and dug deeper. Now, the adrenals are responsible for cortisol and adrenaline. And a lot of people who have adrenal fatigue stage 3 are not producing enough cortisol. You just feel tired. You feel overwhelmed. You can't eat. Stress is a part of everything. So stress is, when you work out, that's stressful. When you work, that's stressful. Stress is needed in life. What happens here for me is that my body was dealing with so much stress from the toxins from this infection that my body wasn't able to handle any additional stress. At the same time, cortisol plays a role in your thyroid. So it's really hard to find Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism without finding cortisol having to be a part of the reason why people struggle with the thyroid. So on top of the fact that it was hurting my cortisol, my adrenals, but it also was causing problems when it came down to the thyroid because of that. But also, if you look up mercury, anytime we have mercury in our body, mercury gets in the way of selenium. And selenium is essential for the thyroid. It's a trace mineral and it blocks selenium. It doesn't allow selenium to do its job. So I also believe that's another reason why I was struggling with the thyroid on top of the bacteria, the toxins, the cortisol. So I wanted to come on here and share this with you. So what I started to do in the last week or so, I came on here enthusiastic a couple weeks ago and made a video on the importance of detoxifying. And the reason why I did that is because what I noticed is when I started to increase my detoxification, my brain came back. I used to always tell people my brain doesn't work all the time. And people were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I lose so much ability to be focused and be able to handle responsibility without feeling overwhelmed that one day I feel okay, one day I don't feel that well. So I started to increase my detoxification, and that explains a lot because if I do have a toxic overload from this bacteria, of the bacteria that built on this tooth, because the tooth is considered a dead organ and it became a host for bad bacteria, and this bad bacteria is releasing dangerous toxins, this makes a lot of sense. Where I started to increase my detoxification, I started to feel better, but as soon as just a little bit of a mistake brings me right back to baseline of fatigue. So what I did also wanted to mention is I used to be in 2012, I came across intermittent fasting when I was a freshman at the Delaware State University. And this is before the science proved on how beneficial intermittent fasting was. And people thought I was crazy. But I lost so much weight with intermittent fasting. I felt great with intermittent fasting. My blood work was perfect. And I've always used intermittent fasting a part of my practice for myself. I noticed that's something I want to throw in here. After I got this procedure done, I can never fast. It's impossible for me to fast. If I fast, I feel exhausted. I feel sick. And I know that has a lot to do with if the body has a lot of toxins, especially toxins that are too overwhelming for the liver, the body will push toxins into the adipose tissue. So when you start fasting, you're using body fat for energy, therefore pulling toxins out of your body fat, which then now you have toxins in your blood, which then can make you tired. But I'm like, I didn't eat anything. I don't, I eat very clean and organic. And I noticed that I could not fast. Fasting was impossible for me. So that's just something I want to throw in here as well. But now that I start my morning off and I double down on detoxification and drink a gallon of water first thing during the day, not on one shot of a gallon of water, but I do all my detoxification things. Milk thistle. I have a certain drink that I drink that gives you all the micronutrients for phase 2 and detoxification for the liver, which then usually helps you get rid of toxins. I start to feel a lot better. But it's like a whole full-time job I'm doing each morning. And if I forget, then I don't have the energy. So I wanted to make this podcast to bring awareness to this, but I also want to make this podcast to share what I'm going through and what I've been going through. Now, I did get from 275 down to 250. And from 250, I can go from 250. I'm not exaggerating. I can go from 250 to 266 in a week. And it's just very weird. It can be a lot of water weight, or it's just something very weird. I can go from 266 if I don't eat at all and I go through the pain of, you know, a not healthy way of not feeding myself, not in a healthy way, in an unhealthy way of like not eating, being tired. I can get back down to 255, 254, but little mistakes make me gain 15, 20 pounds. If you watch my videos on YouTube or TikTok, you'll notice sometimes I come on and my face is like a moon face. Sometimes I come on and I got a nice jawline. Sometimes I come on, I look lean. Sometimes I come on and I look like I gained 30 pounds. So I personally want to come here and just share this story with you because I know that I'm very confident that this thing has a lot to do with what I'm going through. And as I make this transition of a transformation, I would like to also send this podcast to people to share the symptoms I went through. So when they see what happens after, they understand what I was going through at the moment as I'm expressing this to you through this podcast. So I wanted to share this with you. I put everything in the description, the Root Canal Cover-Up book, Dr. Weston A. Price's name. He also has a website called drwestonaprice.org. The YouTube video, the Root Canal YouTube video that is called The Danger of a Root Canal, The Dangers of a Root Canal. The Root Canal movie that is called Root Cause, and it's the movie on Tubi, Tubi. I really hope that this podcast brings you awareness. If you had a root canal done and you don't feel any problems, then this doesn't apply to you. But this applies to people who have been really trying and can find some type of similarity in my story right now. And I hope that this brings you some type of clarity and hope it helps you on your journey of healing. So I also want to say thank you to everybody who's been leaving a review. These last couple podcasts I've been going on say, hey, look, if you like this, can you just leave a rating? Even if you don't feel comfortable leaving a review, can you leave a rating? Or can you leave a review if you've been enjoying this? And I think in the last couple ones of me just saying that, we had like 50 people leave a review on Apple alone. And we had some beautiful, beautiful feedback. And that feedback is really motivating to me. It really is. Sometimes when I sit here and I'm putting this work and I put a lot of pressure behind myself to do these podcasts, I do a lot of pressure behind myself when I do TikTok lives and these workshops, because my goal is to always make sure that I'm putting the client first. I'm putting the listener first. Now I'm writing a book, putting the reader first. I have to be empathetic. I have to be clear. I have to break things down to be simple. I don't want to overwhelm you. And, sometimes you put these things out and you press upload and you go about your life. And I've been struggling with the thing I've been struggling with for 3 years. That brings on, I told you, these mood things that, sometimes things can be going great in my life and it feels like a cloud is over me. It feels like I can't see color sometimes. And then sometimes I can for a couple minutes and I'm going to get excited and then I lose it. And I just been pushing myself for pure willpower. And then I sit here and I get a notification on Apple, oh, you got a review. And you go to the review and you see people in Canada, Australia, London, the United States. And you're like, wow, people in Canada listen to this, and then you speak about how it's been helpful for you. And it really means the world to me. But when you leave those reviews, Apple and Spotify, these two companies, what they do, and even Google, I'm not sure if you could leave a review on that. These companies take your podcast and say, more people are agreeing that this is a good podcast. What we're going to do is we're going to share this with more people. So you're helping me get myself out there a little more. You're helping me provide more value to the world. And I just want to say thank you for those that have left a review. And I want to say even thank you for those that are thinking about leaving one. So I really do hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope it brought you clarity. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.